Light Yagami vs Joe Goldberg. Both manipulate, deceive, and kill for their own goals. But when these predators hunt each other, who's truly smarter? Now, as usual, we will start off with general intelligence. First off, we have fluid intelligence. Now, what is fluid intelligence? Generally, it's defined as your mental agility, the ability to think on your feet and solve new problems you haven't encountered before. It's about using logic and reasoning to navigate unforeseen circumstances and come up with creative solutions in real time. Joe enters the hangar with a clear, prepared plan. Chloroform Tom. But when Tom spots him at the crucial moment, the script flips. Joe doesn't freeze though. He instantly invents a new story, calmly telling Tom he needs to talk about Reese's DNA. This isn't just a cover story, but it's a psychological pivot, buying himself time and putting Tom off balance. Once he subdues Tom, Joe needs banking info to frame Tom's bodyguard. Instead of flipping blindly through a book for clues, he uses abstract reasoning, spotting fingerprints to jump right to the relevant page, then solving an unfamiliar code by matching it with Tom's phone. Joe's genius isn't just in planning, but in solving completely novel puzzles as they happen. Light has an impressive feat to showcase his reasoning in the Yotsuba arc while he was outside of his Kira persona, where he was able to make an inference based on a lot of data over several months to figure out the corporation that will be the most likely responsible for the deaths that are clearly caused by the Death Note, which later allowed the task force to narrow down and capture Higuchi, the short-lived new Kira. Another instance is the potato chip camera gambit. With 64 hidden cameras watching his every move, Light invents a system to secretly watch news and write names undetected, timing every gesture to perfection. One slip and he's caught as Kira. But Light adjusts to every new detail in time, calculating risks and improving flawlessly under constant pressure. So, while both Light and Joe show impressive showings of fluid intelligence, Light would take the edge here. Next, we have crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence refers to the knowledge and skills you accumulate throughout your life. It's like a mental library of all the things you've learned and experienced. Crystallized intelligence is usually measured via statements, as characters rarely go through a step-by-step process of explaining their knowledge in all types of subjects, but it can still be inferred via their feats and statements, as knowledge application is proof of good crystallized intelligence in the area being applied. Joe's greatest asset is his encyclopedic learning. Raised in Mooney's bookstore, Joe was forced to read every book on the shelves, developing a vast, almost savant-like knowledge of classic and modern literature, and used many references to gain trust or manipulate conversations. Also, his academic knowledge is so deep that he became a university literature professor in London on merit alone. Students and colleagues see him as an expert, which is only possible because his understanding is at a PhD level, despite never attending college. But Joe's crystallized intelligence doesn't stop at books. When he needs his cage in his next locations, he designs and constructs an advanced version from scratch, very quickly as well. It's a feat of applied engineering, a digital keypad that alerts his phone, electronic transfer systems, custom ventilation and lighting, all assembled and installed by hand. Dismantling and relocating it in hours proves he has an intimate grasp of the mechanical, electrical, and mathematical principles involved. Joe has also demonstrated fluency in French. This learned skill is shown when he speaks French in his internal monologue, including while in Paris searching for Marianne. His fluency is also noted as a likely requirement for his position as a literature professor in London, which demands proficiency in a language other than English. Light Yagami's crystallized intelligence is established from page 1. He is Japan's top student, acing national entrance exams with perfect scores in mathematics, law, history, and English. Light applies this knowledge throughout Death Note. Early on, he leverages his understanding of police procedure and legal systems to craft unbreakable alibis and avoid every investigative pitfall the task force throws at him. Light's most impressive application comes during the Yotsuba arc. After losing all memories of the Death Note, he helps the task force track the new Kira purely through data analysis. Light cross-references corporate schedules, death timelines, televised broadcasts, and public records, then applies criminal profiling and deductive reasoning to isolate the Yotsuba as a culprit. He guides the team through economic, legal, and psychological evidence to trap Higuchi, all without access to its original Kira knowledge. This is crystallized intelligence weaponized, turning theory into concrete impressive results. Joe Goldberg's knowledge is practical, technical, and literary, with skills from literature to chemistry and engineering. But Light Yagami's crystallized intelligence would take the edge, well integrated and always applied at the highest level. Switching gears from general intelligence to emotional intelligence, we'll leave behind pure logic and enter the world of reading, influencing, and controlling emotions. For this battle, emotional intelligence is broken down into 4 key areas: emotional perception, emotional facilitation, emotional understanding, and emotional management. First is emotional perception, the foundation of emotional intelligence, the ability to instantly recognize people's emotions and intentions from the smallest cues, be it body language, tone, or even a look. This is a core strength for Joe Goldberg. From the very first moment he meets Beck, Joe's attention to detail is uncanny. He picks up on her use of a credit card not just as a payment but as an invitation, reading her vulnerability and interest in seconds. In social situations, Joe doesn't miss much. He sees through Peach's fake illness simply by comparing her claims to her energy at a party, and he also catches the betrayal between Theo and Love based on their behavioral shifts before anything is said aloud. Joe's feats here are direct, immediate, and hard to dispute. He reads people in the moment, often before they realize their own intentions. Light Yagami, meanwhile, is far more analytical. His process always almost relies on emotional understanding or logic rather than picking up on subtle cues in the moment. He's good at reading situations but not at reading emotions on the fly. Emotional perception will go to Joe. Next up is emotional facilitation/engagement, the ability to use emotions to connect with, influence, or guide others at a critical moment. Arguably, one of Light's best instances of emotional facilitation is the time he encountered Misa in his house, understood her unbearable love for him, and quickly seized control of her emotions, bringing her into his orbit. In a moment where most would hesitate, Light acts decisively and gains a critical pawn for his schemes. Joe Goldberg, however, is a natural facilitator. Take his interaction as Reese with Lady Phoebe. A single, emotionally honest statement from Joe affects her so deeply that she credits him with changing her outlook on life. He also gives Beck the strength to stand up for herself after heartfelt reassurance. Joe's words and actions resonate, leaving a real and lasting impact. Emotional facilitation would go to Joe as well. The third corner is emotional understanding, the ability to truly comprehend what's driving someone's emotion, not just what they feel, but why. Joe's talent for emotional diagnosis is almost clinical. After only a brief conversation with Beck's boyfriend, Benji, he identifies that Beck's real problem is her deep-rooted lack of self-worth, a conclusion Beck herself later confirms is absolutely correct. When dealing with adversaries like the Eat the Rich killer, Joe looks beyond surface aggression to recognize the profound loneliness and emotional motivations at play, albeit still not knowing he is the Eat the Rich killer. He can diagnose complex emotional patterns in friends, strangers, and even dangerous obsessives like Phoebe, using that understanding to de-escalate, manipulate, or control the situation as needed. Across the series, Joe's emotional insights are repeatedly validated by those around him, making his skill both consistent and effective in real time. Light Yagami's best demonstration of emotional understanding comes from his manipulation of Rem. By observing how Rem interacts with Misa, Light deduces that Rem's feelings for Misa run so deep that she would sacrifice herself to save her. He constructs an elaborate scenario, pushing Misa into mortal danger, knowing it will provoke Rem to act as he intends, leading to L's death. Light predicts the emotional actions of a literal god of death, orchestrating a perfect outcome based on this understanding. Both have strong feats here, but Joe's understanding is broader and more consistently demonstrated, applying to a wider range of people and situations throughout his story. For this reason, emotional understanding would go to Joe Goldberg with high difficulty. Finally, emotional management. This category measures the ability to regulate one's own emotions and manage the emotional state of others, especially under extreme pressure. Joe Goldberg shows a remarkable ability to keep his cool in high-stakes situations. When confronted by Tom Lockwood, a man who knows all his secrets, Joe maintains perfect composure, simply smiling rather than panicking. His emotional management shines when he is poisoned by love. Joe not only suppresses his fear and pain, but fakes paralysis to catch her off guard, waiting for the precise moment to strike. He's also adept at guiding others through emotional turmoil, like when love calls him in a panic after murdering Natalie. Joe calmly takes control, manages her breakdown, and handles the crime scene with chilling efficiency. One of Joe's best feats comes when the police catch him with a list of chemicals for dissolving a body. Under direct suspicion, Joe remains perfectly calm, improvises a believable story about gardening, and redirects suspicion onto Paco's father, using emotional control as a foundation of flawless deception. Light Yagami is famous for his personal composure under intense pressure, often remaining cool and collected even when under surveillance or direct suspicion. However, his emotional management tends to be passive and internally focused, maintaining his own facade rather than actively regulating the emotions of others. After L's death, his leadership over the task force and control of Takada and Mikami is indirect, with few concrete feats of hands-on emotional intervention. Light's approach is defensive, relying on self-discipline more than actively guiding others through emotional crisis. Emotional management would go to Joe Goldberg. So, overall, Joe takes emotional intelligence. Heading to manipulation, both characters have a plethora of feats to compare here, but sticking to their most remarkable. Joe Goldberg's manipulation in the Eat the Rich Killer is easily his most ambitious and psychologically complex achievement, an operation that stands above his previous feats for its scope, depth, and the layers of self-deception involved. To understand why this is so impressive, you have to consider both the narrative structure and the meta-level manipulation at play. Joe, haunted by his dissociative Reese persona, engineers an elaborate murder spree that terrorizes London's elite. What sets this apart from anything Joe has done before is the dual nature of the manipulation. He is both the orchestrator and, at times, an unwitting participant. Joe's subconscious creates the Reese identity, allowing him to separate his own guilt and intentions, and setting up a narrative where he must outwit a killer that is in fact himself. This creates a web of deception so dense that even Joe is convinced he's hunting a separate person. He plants evidence, creates alibis, and expertly manipulates not only the people around him like Lady Phoebe, Roald, and Kate, but also the police and, crucially, his own conscious mind. He keeps detailed maps and notes on Reese's actions, all while appearing to play the part of a determined investigator. Joe's manipulation extends to framing innocent parties, like Dawn, at precisely the right moment for the authorities to intervene, and setting up scenarios where his own guilt is never seriously considered by anyone. The brilliance of the Eat the Rich Killer arc isn't just in how Joe fools others, but in how he uses his knowledge of psychology, social cues, and his own weaknesses to create a perfect storm of confusion and misdirection. He manages to orchestrate the downfall of some of London's most powerful people while maintaining his own cover, even from himself. This is manipulation at the highest level. Joe isn't just a master manipulator of others, but of his own reality, weaponizing his fractured psyche to become both the puppet and the puppet master. When it comes to Light, his most advanced feat is undoubtedly his orchestration of Rem's sacrifice. In this arc, Light navigates multiple psychological layers, leveraging not only human emotion, but the moral code and self-preservation instinct of a Shinigami. Light's methodology is complex after Higuchi's death. The task force interrogate Rem, with L trying to expose Light and Misa as Kira. Light subtly guides Rem's response, helping her evade L's direct questions while quietly feeding just enough information for L to piece together the truth about the Death Note's rules. All while Light knows Rem's only priority is protecting Misa. By helping move the investigation toward disproving the 13-day rule, Light sets up an impossible situation. If L confirms the rules are fake, Misa will be executed. Rem, seeing this, is psychologically cornered. Light's final move is forcing Rem to act, knowing she will choose to save Misa by sacrificing herself and killing both L and Watari. This multi-layered psychological trap works because Light has a flawless read on Rem's motivations, uses gradual escalation and indirect suggestion, and times the gambit so that Rem is left with no choices except those that benefit Light. However, manipulation goes to Joe Goldberg for achieving simultaneous high-level manipulation of others, society, and himself. A true master of psychological warfare on every front. Next up is general tactics or strategic planning. It covers how characters create, adjust, and carry out long-term plans in high-stakes situations. In this case, both Light and Joe rely on deception as well, whether it's through false identities, psychological misdirection, or layered manipulation, making their strategies not just about planning, but about staying hidden while pulling the strings. Joe Goldberg's most impressive feat of strategic planning comes at the end of Season 3, where his escape from love and subsequent fake death show the full breadth of his tactical foresight and operational creativity. Joe's plan began long before the confrontation, noticing love was planting aconite, a deadly poison. Joe took the initiative to research its antidotes and secured adrenaline, which he later used to counteract her murder attempt. He preemptively prepared a lethal syringe for love, keeping it hidden until the perfect moment. When love reveals her plot and poisons him at dinner, Joe appears to be succumbed, but he has already taken adrenaline and is simply acting, waiting for the opportunity to turn the tables. When love comes in for the kill, Joe injects her with a fatal dose instead. From there, Joe's planning shifts to high-level cover-up and escape. He frames love for every crime that happened, forging a suicide note in her name and planting physical evidence to match the narrative. He fakes his own death, cutting off his own toes and leave behind DNA evidence and hiding them in strategic locations. He then sets the house ablaze, destroying any lingering traces, and slips away under a new identity. Every detail, from his interaction with the police to the destruction of evidence to his psychological management of himself and others, is precisely calculated. What makes this plan exceptional is Joe's multi-phase approach, anticipating countermoves, fooling everyone from love to the police with layered deception, enduring physical and psychological stress, and adapting instantly when plans change. It's a showcase of strategic foresight, real-time flexibility, and total narrative control. So, how does Light compare? Light Yotsuba and Memory Gambit is his magnum opus of long-term strategy. Anticipating L's tightening suspicions, Light sets a multi-stage plan in motion. He has Luke add 2 fake rules to the Death Note for plausible deniability, then transfers ownership to erase his own memories, ensuring perfect innocence under investigation. While Light is imprisoned, the notebook passes to a greedy new Kira, Higuchi, as Light predicted, drawing L's attention elsewhere. Once Light and Misa are released and suspicion is off them, Light regains the notebook, recovers his memories, and instantly eliminates Higuchi. The fake rules then shield both Light and Misa from further suspicion, forcing even L and the task force to accept their innocence. Every contingency is covered, from the supernatural rules to the psychological manipulation of Rem, to ensuring Misa's loyalty and L's confusion. Light's strategy is multi-layered and proactive. He engineers fake evidence, anticipates multiple lines of investigation, manipulates supernatural mechanics, and orchestrates perfect timing to clear his name and remove his greatest rival. It's the pinnacle of high-level, multi-phase strategic foresight and psychological warfare, executed flawlessly under relentless pressure. So, Light would take strategy/planning with high difficulty. Joe pushes him to absolute limit with grounded, realistic tactical brilliance, but Light's long game, supernatural, multi-layered gambit just edges him out in depth and scope. But what's the final verdict? Light Yagami is unmatched when it comes to long-term strategy and intellectual calculation, but his victories rely on carefully constructed plans and predictable systems. Joe Goldberg, on the other hand, excels in reading people, adapting in real time, and manipulating both individuals and groups, even himself under pressure. Joe's edge comes from his ability to improvise, control emotions, and turn chaos to his advantage when things don't go as planned. After a close contest where both are pushed to their limits, Joe Goldberg wins with high to extreme difficulty.